My boyfriend became my own brother-in-law. His wedding with my sister caused a sensation across the whole city 3 years ago, and I became the biggest joke in the entire city, eh? I burned all the photos I took with him and let go of all my lingering hopes, then traveled all the way to California alone. Little did I expect that now, 3 years later, I would set foot on this land again. The airport was packed with people coming and going. Over the broadcast system, a sweet female voice was looping flight announcements. The flight from California to City A has landed. I dragged my suitcase out of the arrival passage. Old Wang, who came to pick me up, spotted me right away. He walked up quickly and took the suitcase from me, and greeted me respectfully as second miss. I glanced around my surroundings. There was no one else from the Shen family except him. I curled my lips in a self-deprecating smile. 3 years of wandering overseas. It's been so long that no one remembers the Shen family still has me. A person named Shen Yuren. It's okay, we have plenty of time ahead. I closed my eyes to rest after getting in the car. Old Wang hesitated to say something, and ended up not saying a word at all. He started the car and merged into the traffic flow. Over 10 hours of flight left me feeling drowsy, but I was woken up by a sharp car horn not long after falling asleep. The car was stuck in the busy downtown area, unable to move even an inch. I rubbed my tired eye corners and said, "Uncle Wang, what's the matter, second miss? This section of road gets congested very often. Get some more sleep for a while. I'll wake you up when we arrive." I'm a light sleeper. I couldn't fall back asleep after being woken up. I watched the traffic moving at a snail's pace ahead. More than half an hour passed by. My patience was completely worn out. I simply told Old Wang to overtake when he got the chance. Old Wang is a veteran driver of the Shen family. His driving skills are extremely solid. Following my instructions, he overtook several cars in a row, but accidentally rear-ended a Maybach ahead that was changing lanes repeatedly. The vehicle speed was not fast. No one got injured. Only a part of the rear bumper was broken. Old Wang turned pale from fright. He looked at me stammeringly. "Second miss, what do we do?" I frowned slightly, pushed the door open and got out of the car, walked up to the Maybach, and knocked on the car window. The man in the driver's seat was unfastening his seatbelt. When he looked up at me, I spoke first. "Do you have a pen and paper?" He froze for a moment, until I asked once again. He handed over the pen and paper as if just waking up from a dream. I skillfully wrote down a string of phone numbers. And a name. 3 years have passed. I can still recite this string of numbers backwards. After finishing, I handed the pen and paper back. My tone was plain, but carried a hint of undeniable arrogance. "I'm the one who hit your car. My brother-in-law is Gu Jingchen from Gu Group. You can contact him for follow-up compensation matters." I turned around and left right after finishing speaking. I didn't take another look at Xiao Cheng in the driver's seat. This was the first time Xiao Cheng had encountered such a situation. He subconsciously looked at the man in the back seat. The man's cold face showed no expression. His jaw was clenched tight. There was a hint of displeasure in his dark and deep eyes. Xiao Cheng uncovered his mouth and spoke. "Mr. Ji, this scene was spotted by someone in another car. The man in the driver's seat was exactly the young master of the Shu family, Shu Chengyan. He stared at my back for quite a while, and confirmed he hadn't misidentified the person. He excitedly took out his mobile phone, first called Palin Hotel, and booked a private room, then dialed another phone number. In the CEO office of Gu Group, Gu Jingchen had just put down his pen when he picked up the call. His voice was cold and clear. "What's the matter, CEO Gu?" "I saw Shen Yuran. She's back." Gu Jingchen's breath suddenly hitched. Then he responded calmly with a "She got you in huge trouble the moment she came back to China." Xu Chengyan's voice was full of schadenfreude. He exaggerated the whole rear-end incident and told him all about it. He specially emphasized at the end, "The car she hit belongs to Ji Jingchuan. No one in City A doesn't know." Ji Jingchuan entered the business world at the age of 22, took over as CEO of Zhongshan Group at 24, and controlled most of City A's economic lifeline by the age of 28. He is ruthless and decisive. No one has ever dared to offend him easily. Xu Chengyan added as if taking credit for it. "Buddy, am I loyal enough? I already booked a private room for you at Palin Hotel. Hurry up and ask him out to apologize." After hanging up the phone, Gu Jingchen was silent for a moment. He dialed his assistant on the internal line and asked him to book a dinner with Mr. Ji of Zhongshan Group for tonight. He stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the 28th floor. The sleeves of his white shirt are rolled up to his forearms. He is gazing into the distance. The night I went abroad 3 years ago, I burned all the photos we took together and threw away everything related to him. I knew exactly what I was doing. Gu Jingshen, I hope we never meet again in this life. He closes his eyes briefly and murmurs softly. When the car slowly comes to a stop, Lao Wang calls out to me. I open my eyes and look at the familiar Gu family mansion in front of me. My brows furrow right away. Why are we coming to the Gu family's place? Lao Wang replies calmly, neither humble nor arrogant. The eldest miss said she hasn't seen you for 3 years and asked me to pick you up for dinner together. I press my lips together. A bitter feeling rises in my chest. It's been 3 years. If not for old Master Shen's 80th birthday, I would never set foot on this land again in my life. The Gu family's servant leads me into the living room. Shen Shuna is coming downstairs. A smile immediately spreads across her face when she sees me. Yuran, you finally agreed to come back. The day I left the country 3 years ago, he came to the airport to see me off. My eyes were full of hopelessness and despair. I only left him with the words that I would never come back and would never wish you too well. Now 3 years have passed since we last met. My married sister looks even more beautiful. She is wearing a light cyan cheongsam, with delicate orchids embroidered on the collar, which makes her look gentle and elegant. Exactly the look a wealthy family lady should have. I hold back all my emotions and call out sis softly. Gone is the usual coquettish softness in my voice, leaving only politeness and distance. She pulls me and looks me up and down. Her eyes are full of concern. Did you have a bad time in California? Why have you gotten so thin? No, it wasn't bad at all. Everything is going just fine. I have been saying this line for 3 years. It's my answer no matter who asks. She knows I am stubborn. There's no use asking about things I refuse to talk about. Seeing the exhaustion in my eyes, she says gently, go rest in the guest room upstairs for a while. When you wake up, I'll ask the kitchen to make your favorite dishes. I mumble in agreement and walk familiarly up to the second floor. I am way too familiar with everything in the Gu family's house. I take a hot shower, blow dry my hair and lie down on the bed. But I sleep extremely restlessly this time. All I have are weird, messy dreams. It's already 9:30 p.m. when I wake up. I didn't eat much on the plane, so my stomach is growling badly. I change my clothes and get ready to go downstairs. I just reach the staircase when I see Gu Jingshen coming back from outside. My steps stop suddenly. The hand holding the handrail clenches tighter and tighter. 3 years apart. He looks even more mature. He is wearing a well-tailored dark suit, looking cold and noble. He is bending down to change his shoes and doesn't see me on the stairs. I stand rooted to the spot, stuck between 2 choices. I am just about to turn around and go back to the room when Shenshuna's voice comes from behind me. Yoren, my body goes stiff instantly. It takes me quite a while to turn around. I put on a calm expression on my face. No one can tell anything is wrong. I walk down the steps. My gaze sweeps past Gu Jingshen. Just like I am looking at a total stranger, I only speak to Shenshuna. Sis, I'm hungry. Shenshuna smiles and calls out to Aunt Lee. Aunt Lee comes out of the kitchen. She sees me and greets me happily. Miss Shen. I used to come to the Gu family's house very often, so Aunt Lee and I are really close. I walk to the dining room and sit down. I casually ask, where's Aunt Wang? Aunt Wang used to dote on me the most. Every time I came over, she would make a whole table of my favorite dishes. Shenshuna is hanging up Gu Jingshen's coat. She turns around when she hears me and says, Aunt Wang's grandson is sick. So she asked for leave today. I watch how naturally intimate they are, just like an old couple who have been married for many years. It feels like a sharp knife is slicing through my chest. The sharp pain spreads all over my heart. I only take a few bites before putting down my chopsticks. Aunt Lee hurries to ask Miss Shen, is the food not to your taste? Before I can say anything, Gu Jingshen suddenly speaks up. She can't eat too much at night. I lift my head sharply to look at him. Ever since he walked in the door, I have been ignoring him completely. This is the first time I have looked at him properly in 3 years. But only for a second. I look away. Right away, there's no trace of love in my eyes. Only calmness and indifference remain. His heart goes completely empty in an instant, and his gaze dims as well. Yuran, Mom, and Dad went to Oakland to pick up Grandpa, so no one is at home right now. You can stay here these days. Shenshuna walked over. acting like an elder sister as caring as a mother. I can take care of you if you stay here. You've suffered so much out there alone all these years. A cold, mocking smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. You know exactly what happened between Gu Jingchen and me before. You still asked me to stay at the Gu family's house? If he hadn't always doted on me, I would have thought he was deliberately trying to embarrass me. All these years in California, I was also all alone. I spoke calmly. Sis, arrange a driver to take me back to the Shen family's place, please. Gu Jingchen put down the hangover tea. He grabbed his coat and was about to go upstairs. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped. It's getting late. Even if you want to leave, wait till tomorrow at least. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It wasn't even 10:30 yet. But when I met Shen Shuna's expectant gaze, I caved in the end. Okay, sorry to bother you then. Gu Jingchen, who had just stepped on the stairs, froze sharply. That polite, distant, sorry to bother you, was like an ice-cold sharp knife, stabbing hard right into his heart. I had jet lag that night. Tossed and turned the whole time. I only fell asleep for a little while right before dawn. Early the next morning, I packed my things and went downstairs. I saw Gu Jingchen in loungewear, sitting at the dining table reading a newspaper. There was milk and a sandwich in front of him. When he saw me come downstairs, he immediately called for Aunt Lee. He heard the sound of footsteps, turned around and glanced at me, called out for Aunt Lee again. Aunt Lee quickly brought my breakfast to the table. I sat down opposite him. I greeted him casually, "Morning." He was slightly stunned for a second, then replied, "Morning." The breakfast was very simple. 1 sandwich, 1 glass of milk. I only took 2 bites of the sandwich and finished all the milk. He closed the newspaper, frowning slightly. Breakfast is very important. You're eating too little. I looked up at him. A sarcastic curve tugged at the corner of my mouth. Mr. Gu, just focus your extra energy on your work. You don't need to worry about an irrelevant person like me. That Mr. Gu made his face turn pale instantly. You're calling me Mr. Gu? What else should I call you? I smiled even more sarcastically. My tone was sharp. Brother-in-law or third young Master Gu? His face got paler and paler. He pressed his pale lips together. He was silent for a long time, then spoke slowly. Suit yourself. The atmosphere in the living room dropped to freezing point instantly. None of the servants dared to come near. Right at that moment, Shen Shuna's anxious voice came from the entryway, breaking the deadlock. Jingchen yi shi. Her words stopped abruptly. She obviously saw the weird atmosphere at the dining table and froze for a second when she saw us. You're in Europe? I looked in the direction of her voice. My gaze suddenly froze. My face went deathly pale in an instant. Shen Shuna was holding a baby in her arms. The adorable baby was wearing a little pink outfit. Its chubby little hand was grabbing the collar of her clothes. Seeing me staring at the baby the whole time, Shen Shuna smiled and said, Yuran? This is Yi. She just turned 1 year and 2 months old. At that moment, I felt like my whole world was collapsing. 3 years ago, when he married Shen Shuna, my world crumbled to pieces. And at this moment, the world that once lit up my life is now completely barren. I dug my fingers hard into the corner of the table, desperately holding back my surging emotions, forcing myself to calm down. I should have thought of this earlier. They've been married for 3 years. How could they not have a kid? All those dusty memories came flooding back in an instant. Once upon a time, we cuddled on the lawn behind the Gu family's garden. I was lying in his arms, twirling his long, slender fingers in my hand. I asked him what he wanted to do after graduation. He said he'd work hard to make money, then marry you. My eyes lit up like they were full of stars. I asked again, then what? He looked down at me. His gaze was serious. Then you'll have a baby for me. Preferably a daughter. As cute and sweet as you. I'll spoil both of you. My face turned red. I coquettishly called him annoying, but I was over the moon inside. I asked him to pick a name for our daughter in advance. Think of a name for our daughter. He said we should name her Gu Yi Yi. I thought the name was too tacky. His ears turned red right away. He said you and the baby would be my one and only. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed his face over and over again. We agreed Yi would only be her nickname. He had to pick a formal given name later. But now his daughter is really named Gu Yi Yi. I suddenly laughed. A thin layer of mist clouded my eyes. It looked almost like self-mockery. I mumbled that I'd become an aunt now. That's good. I walked over to Uncle Shen's side. I reached out and touched the baby's cheek gently. It was so soft and squishy. This is his daughter. Gu Yi? Gu Jingchen suddenly spoke up. It's not the yi that means only. It's the y that means as before. Gu Jingchen spoke again suddenly. I froze for a second. Then I gave a bleak smile. Which character it is? What difference does it make anyway? He has a wife. And a child. There's no going back for us. Shenshuna spoke anxiously. Jingchen, Yi keeps having diarrhea. Gu Jingchen immediately walked over quickly. He glanced at the baby, grabbed the car keys on the coffee table, to the hospital. I subconsciously wanted to follow them. But I stopped after just 2 steps. He was holding his wife in his arms, and his wife was holding their daughter. What would I even be if I followed? Watching their backs as they hurried away, I bit down hard on my lower lip. A faint metallic taste of blood spread in my mouth. After that day, I made a crazy decision. I found out Ji Jinchuan had a long-term suite at Jinhao Hotel. It was the place he met up with his mistresses. I stood outside that suite door. I raised my hand to knock. When someone pulled the door open from inside, a disheveled woman ran out crying, covering her face. She grabbed her bag and left in a hurry. I took a deep breath, pushed open the half-open door, and walked inside. There was no one in the room. Only the sound of running water came from the bathroom. I tossed my bag on the sofa. My heart was pounding like crazy. My palms were sweaty from nervousness. Not long after, the bathroom door opened. I looked over at the sound. The man only had a towel wrapped around his waist. His toned, muscular body was exposed to the air. Water droplets dripped down his tanned skin. His wet black hair was also dripping with water. He was so handsome you couldn't look away. When he saw me suddenly appear in the room, his brows immediately furrowed. His eyes were filled with anger. He said coldly, "Get out." My cheeks flushed slightly. I coughed lightly to hide my embarrassment. I took another deep breath and looked him straight in the eye. "Mr. G, I'm here to apply to be your next mistress." As soon as I said those words, even I felt my cheeks burning hot. Ji Jinchuan narrowed his eyes. He looked me up and down. A sarcastic smile tugged at his thin lips. Not every woman who throws herself at me is someone I'd want. I was both embarrassed and annoyed, so I mustered up my courage and walked closer. I wrapped my arms around his waist, but I didn't dare press myself against him. I looked up at him. My eyes were unusually bright. "So what do you think? Am I good enough? Short on money?" His tone was playful. He glanced at my arms wrapped around his waist. "You're good-looking. I won't lose out by being your woman." I smiled brightly, hiding all the sour pain in my heart behind that smile. Ji Jinchuan let out a cold snort. "Anything else?" I froze for a second. I shook my head. No, that's it. He'd seen a lot of women who threw themselves at him, but none of them had ever been so straightforward about it. I was the first one. He couldn't help but look at me a couple more times. When I saw he wasn't saying anything, I mustered up my courage, stood on tiptoe, and leaned toward his lips. But as soon as I touched him, he pushed me away roughly. The man's cold voice held no emotion at all. "Go take a shower first." "Okay." I agreed and walked into the bathroom. I turned on the shower. Warm water poured down on me. I only then realized my body was shaking the whole time. I felt a flash of regret for a second. But when I thought of Gu Jingchen and Shen Shuna, and that baby named Yi, that little bit of regret vanished instantly. When I came out of the bathroom wearing his bathrobe, Ji Jingchuan was leaning against the head of the bed, looking at how awkward I was acting, frowned slightly. "If you've changed your mind, you can leave right now." I hesitated for a split second, still biting my lip. I walked towards him step by step. I leaned down to kiss him, but he turned his head slightly to avoid it, staring at me with a heavy gaze. "No experience?" My cheeks flushed bright red instantly. I was so embarrassed I wanted to dig a hole and hide. I mumbled a quiet yes. He looked at my reddened eye corners and my slightly trembling eyelashes. He froze for a second. Then the next moment, he grabbed the back of my head, flipped me over, and pressed me under him. Everything was spinning around me. I panicked and clung to his neck, my eyes full of confusion. He stared at me intently and asked in a deep voice, "What's your name?" I answered word for word, "Shen Yuran." "Have you thought this through?" "It's still not too late to back out now." He was giving me one last chance to choose. I looked at his face so close to mine and said softly, "I made up my mind before I came." He asked again, "How much money do you want?" I looked at him blankly. "What?" His frown deepened, his tone cold. "How much do you want to do this?" I smiled a little and said softly, "Name your price." Mr. G would never be stingy, right? I'm not worried. I used to think that when I turned 20, I'd give my most precious thing to Gu Jingchen, the man I'd loved for years. But now I gave it to a total stranger. It was a wild, crazy night. When I woke up, I was the only one left in the room. There was a check on the nightstand, along with a sticky note. The amount on the check was 500,000 yen. The note was in Ji Jingchuan's neat, firm handwriting. "Leave your contact info before you go. I'll reach out to you if I need anything." I picked up the check. A self-deprecating smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Turns out the thing I cherished most was only worth 500K to him. Cold tears slid down the corners of my eyes. I bit down hard on my wrist to keep myself from crying out loud. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. Not long after, Ji Jingchuan came out of the bathroom, already fully dressed. Royal blue shirt paired with black slacks, making his figure look tall and straight, and his features even more handsome and sharp. I quickly pulled myself together, except for the slight redness at my eye corners. You couldn't tell anything was wrong? He took a pen and paper and set it in front of me. "You should have looked up my rules before coming." "Do you know what to do?" I answered softly. "I know. My women only have a 3-month shelf life. During this time, if I need you, you have to be available whenever I call. You're not allowed to come to my company to find me. You're not allowed to tell anyone about our relationship. You're not allowed to cause trouble. When the 3 months are up, we part on good terms. No pestering." His tone was flat and cold, like he was discussing the most ordinary business deal. Everyone says he's cold and unfeeling by nature, but women still flock to him trying to get his attention, because he's not only rich and powerful, he's also extremely generous with women. When the 3 months are over, he'll give a very generous breakup fee. Ji Jingchuan didn't say anything else, picked up the watch on the table and put it on, turned around and left. I went back to the Shen family house. The Shen family's old mansion has been passed down for generations. The red walls are covered with ivy. The sycamore trees in the yard are tall and sturdy. I was lying on a lounge chair next to the flower bed reading. Mama Jiang ran over excitedly. "Second, miss?" "The master and the others are back." "Got it." I closed my book, calmed my emotions, and walked into the living room. Old man Shen was sitting right in the middle of the sofa, wearing a traditional Tang suit, holding a cane in his hand, his gray hair combed perfectly neat. The look he gave me was full of impatience and authority. My parents were sitting next to him. Shen Yaoting had a cold look on his face. When Tang Huiru saw me, tears immediately welled up in her eyes. I changed my shoes and walked over, and greeted softly, "Grandpa, Mom, Dad." Shen Yaoting nodded faintly. Tang Huiru grabbed my hand excitedly and touched my thin cheek. Her heart ached so bad. "Oh, honey, you've lost so much weight." Before he could finish speaking, a cold snort came from the living room. Old man Shen stared right at me, his tone sharp. "You still know to come back?" I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Old man Shen never liked me in the first place. When Mom was pregnant with me, the doctor misdiagnosed me as a boy. He was over the moon, but I turned out to be a girl when I was born. What's worse, when Mom gave birth to me, she had a massive hemorrhage and could never get pregnant again. The Shen family has had only one heir for generations, so the family line ended with my dad. Because of this, Dad always favored my older sister Shen Shuna over me. I was sent to my grandma's house in Wuzhen when I was 3. I stayed there until I was 13 when Grandma passed away. Then I was taken back to the Shen family. Tang Huiru quickly jumped in to save me. "Dad, your 80th birthday is in half a month. Your aunt came back specifically to celebrate it with you." She gave me a wink as she spoke, but I pretended I didn't see it and kept my mouth shut. If Mom hadn't talked me into it over and over, I would never have come back for this birthday banquet. The phone in the living room rang. Tang Huiru picked up the phone and responded with a smile a few times. She turned to old man Shen and said, "Dad, Shuna and Jingchen knew you were coming back today, so they booked a table at a restaurant to welcome you home." Old man Shen's expression softened immediately. "Shuna is such a thoughtful kid. Not long after, Shen Shuna and Gu Jingchen arrived at the Shen house to pick us up and take us to the restaurant. The whole family chatted and laughed happily at the dinner table. I was the only one sitting quietly in the corner, like a total outsider. I made up an excuse, saying I needed to use the restroom, and walked out of the private room. I just pulled open the door of the private room when someone walked out of the private room across the hall. Our eyes met. Both of us froze for a second. It was Ji Jingchuan. I almost blurted out, "President Ji," but I held it back. He just gave me a casual glance, like I was a total stranger, and walked right past me. Not pausing for even a split second, I awkwardly touched my nose and gave up on going to the restroom and headed for the fire exit instead. When I walked back, I saw Gu Jingchen leaning against the hallway wall from afar, holding a cigarette between his fingers, surrounded by wispy smoke. When he saw me coming, he took a deep drag, put out the cigarette butt, and threw it in the trash can, before pushing the door and walking into the private room. The relationship between me and him is way too sensitive. Walking in together would only cause unnecessary trouble. I stood outside for quite a while before going in. After dinner, our group walked out of the private room and ran right into Ji Jingchuan and a group of business executives. Coming out from the opposite side, Shen Yaoting immediately walked over with a smile and held out his hand. "President Ji, long time no see." Ji Jingchuan reached out and shook his hand. With a formal smile on his face, polite but distant, he glanced casually at me standing behind Shen Yaoting, raised an eyebrow and said, "Mr. Shen, is this a family dinner?" He only just realized then that I was actually the Shen family's daughter. "My father just came back from Auckland today. We're here to welcome him home." Shen Yaoting spoke in a very polite manner. Ji Jingchuan's gaze swept past me quickly and landed on Old Man Shen, and he nodded slightly. He only gave Old Man Shen a casual glance, but my heart skipped a beat. I clearly saw a hint of coldness in his eyes. I had no idea when I had offended him. Old Man Shen worked in the business world when he was young, and was quite friendly with Ji Jingchuan's grandfather. He immediately started chatting with him warmly. Gu Jingchen also walked over to shake his hand and greet him. The two groups exchanged a few polite greetings, then left the restaurant one after another. After leaving the hotel, Ji Jingchuan got in the car and through the window. He watched me standing at the entrance of the restaurant. The evening wind blew my skirt. Neon lights fell on me, making me look even thinner and frailer. His deep voice slowly said, "Look up Shen Yuran." The man who spoke was President Ji. Xiaocheng immediately agreed. That same night, Ji Jingchuan got my file. Shen Yuran, second daughter of Shen Yaoting. 23 years old, sent to her grandma's home in Wuzhen at age 3, only taken back to the Shen family at age 13, went to California at age 20. Aside from the fixed monthly living allowance, it was almost like being exiled by the Shen family. Both of us are daughters of the Shen family. Shen Shuna lives a super glamorous and high-profile life. She married the heir of Gu Group. She's the widely envied Mrs. Gu in the whole city A. But when people talk about the Shen family, no one remembers there is a second young lady named Shen Yuran. Ji Jingchuan walked to the bar counter. He opened a bottle of red wine, poured half a glass, swirled it gently. After taking a small sip, his deep eyes held completely unreadable emotions. Not long after, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. After I picked up, Ji Jingchuan's cold, deep voice came from the other end. "It's me, come to the hotel." Judging from his tone, he seemed really angry. I didn't have time to overthink. Changed clothes, grabbed my bag, and went downstairs. The whole family was surrounding the old man, chatting and laughing in the living room. Gu Jingchen and Shen Shuna were there too. "Aunt Jang saw me holding my bag," asked casually, "Second miss?" "It's so late, are you going out?" Everyone's eyes fell on me. I bit the bullet and said, "Grandpa, Mom, Dad, I have something to go out for." Shen Yaoting just gave a faint hum in response. The old man didn't even glance at me. Only Tang Huiru asked worriedly, "Yuran? It's already dark. Where are you going?" I made up a random excuse, "I'm going to buy some stuff." She didn't ask further questions, only told me to come back early and let Lao Wang drive me there. I asked Lao Wang to park the car at a mall not far from the hotel, then sent him home first. I went around the mall's back door and headed straight for the hotel. When I pushed open the hotel room door, Ji Jingchuan was standing by the window on a call.